bring on our final
I think this is the first time we've had Adam
of
on.
the show.
He's a Brian guest usually.
We've had Adam on
It's been
before.
a long time, guys.
Yeah, we've talked to Adam before. Adam, great to hear from you. How are you today?
I'm fantastic.
All right, so let's go back to Saturday. Paulie said you got to be careful what you learn, quote unquote, from a spring game. I get that. Did you take anything though from the spring game on Saturday?
The biggest thing you take away is we're much faster than we were last year.
Yeah.
In the secondary, you look at a guy like Deuce Chestnut, who everybody knows who he is and what he's capable of doing. He was out there. He showed his speed. And on the offensive side, it was everybody was, in turbo speed. Everybody was running around, catching the ball. Trevor Pena, to have him back out there. We know what he can do in the return game. We were able to see what he could do in the open field. And then you look across the board, and we don't have a wide receiver that is starting that is a starter from last year, correct? So, that was a major overhaul. And I still think offensively, I like the skill positions, but the biggest thing is going to be, and this is still a work in progress, is going to be that offensive line. They've got a couple key pieces, but to go against a guy like Fel Diggs each week, that's going to make our left tackle better. And whoever that is, whether that's Enrique Cruz or somebody else, if they supplant him, those are good things. So the biggest thing was I saw speed and I saw competition within each position.
Adam, as a former offensive lineman, can you learn anything about the offensive line in a game where you can't hit the quarterback? And can you tell they were protecting good enough? Did it look like an improvement to you?
I think schematically it looks like an improvement. There were more max protection, deep shots. So you're not leaving guys out hanging out by themselves. When you're going to run a play action, you're going to take a deep shot and you're only going to have a two-man route. Like, those two guys have to go win, and the objective is to block it up. So what did I take away? I think same kind of thing. You look at Bradford being left, you look at Cruz being left, and Petrie going at right guard, and John Ray Reed. So, there's some familiarity in there, and then Weatherspoon going out to the right tackle. There's some guys, but I still don't think that if you ask Dale Williams today, the offensive line coach, is this who you're going to battle with in September? No, he would be like, hell no. There were guys on the sideline that are transfer portal kids that were, they were watching the game just as I was, saying, okay, could I potentially move into that slot? So that's a work in progress, but I think if they can overhaul that a little bit, or even just improve schematically, I think they've improved, but just individually, technique-wise, improved. It's going to be a pretty decent team.
One thing that Paulie and I talked about at the top of the show was the quarterback position. Obviously, Kyle McCord, lived up to the hype, and he looks the part. It seems like there is a big drop-off between him and Carlos Del Rio Wilson. Do you think Fran Brown will try to go out and add another quarterback before next season, or do you think they go to battle with Carlos Del Rio Wilson being the backup?
I think in today's age, if somebody shows interest in Syracuse and, he might be a transfer portal guy, I think Fran will listen to anybody that's interested, and I think the biggest thing right now is you got to be interested in Syracuse and the way that they're going about it. Did I think Carlos Del Rio Wilson improved? Yeah, I think so. You saw more touch out of him.
Yep.
And more focus, right? So, you could tell him, you could see his head going through the read and then delivering the ball. Was it perfect? By no stretch. But, the one thing we saw last year was his athleticism, scramble, the ability to make plays out of the pocket. This time was, you're starting to deliver a ball on target and not at their feet or 6 feet over their head. So there is definitely improvement. But that is a position that, I think you need to beef up. And whether that's Carlos Del Rio Wilson or somebody else, you need to have at least 3 quarterbacks on the rosters nowadays.
All right, John Lally, Zaire Franklin, they were, the honorary coaches. We saw a lot of SU football alums back for the spring game, and we know that Fran Brown has tried to make that a priority. You being an alum, Adam, how do you feel like he's doing with the relationship between the program and the alums out there?
I think he's doing a fantastic job. I mean, the old regime under Dino, it was you would not necessarily walk up to a locked door, but it wasn't very friendly. Where Fran is, hey, you're gonna come up here, and when you do come up here, he's gonna drag you out on the field and introduce you to guys, and he wants you to pass your number to a guy just in case they have some questions about this, that, or the other thing. And I stood on the sideline with myself, who I learned from PJ Alexander, who was there, and Justin Pugh was on the sideline. So there's three guys that had played in the NFL that we really hadn't seen each other in a long time, and that was predicated upon coming back to a game and everybody seeing each other and communicating, and we were able to talk to recruits, talk to people on the sideline, just impart knowledge and get excited about it. So I do love what he's doing. He had an alumni call a couple weeks ago, and I think it was over 200 former players jumped on, and I think the resounding consensus was, wow, this is different. This is great. We're excited about it. And, I think there was some grumblings at the beginning of like, oh, he doesn't, he'd referenced Coach Pasqualoni and Coach DeLeon. He comes from an era that was heavily recruited by those guys. So, and he coached with Coach D down at Baylor, and, just the opportunity and the things that everything had come about was, it's an exciting time for alums. I think it's going to be an exciting time for fans, right? Like it's definitely exciting. And now you still got to go out and play football. So recruiting, unbelievable recruiters. They know who you are, and they're all about it.
With that being said, you're right. They got to go out and play football. There's been a lot of talk about expectations and predictions and how many wins. And I know there's a lot of time between now and the end of August. But do you want to take a stab at it? I mean, what are you kind of thinking in terms of what is a realistic prediction for this football team in year one under Fran Brown?
I think a solid bowl game. What's that? 7-5, right? I think. You still got to go out and play football, and you don't have Clemson and Florida State on your schedule, but you're going to go up against tough competition. And just being in year one, do I think they can do better than that? Yeah. Do I think there's a downside? I don't necessarily see it yet, but this is all the infancy of the program. So I'm being optimistic, and I kind of like I was last year, and saying, hey, make a bowl game. And you make a bowl game in year one, you can cash your chips in a little bit later.
All right, Adam. Great stuff as always. I think Paulie's got
Adam,
one more.
your open invite to drive with me to Vegas, too, if you still want to do that.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, said no one ever. But Paulie, I'll be thinking of you, and hopefully we're on a nice flight. Hopefully the seat's a nice size for me.
All right, Adam, be well. Enjoy the start of your summer, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
All right, talk to you guys later.
All right, Adam Terry joining us here on the show, and with that, we will
someday
hit
somebody will
timeout.
drive with me somewhere.
We should put together clips of everyone responding to that question from you. Coach Boeheim wouldn't go to Wegmans with you. Adam said no one ever. I'm sure Dave Pash would chime in. We could have fun with that. All right, we'll wrap things up right after this on ESPN Radio.